Reason number 3, cameras. Cameras have not gotten better. All they've gotten is more convenient. It's a lot more convenient to load up a SD card in your digital camera and fire off 1,000 shots and never give one thought to how much film you're using up and switch ISO at will. You go straight from the card to your computer, have a photo out of your printer in a moment. That's convenient. The camera isn't better. There's something about using a fine camera like this, like a M2, that you just cannot get in a digital camera. So there's a special, as I said before, there's kind of a joy in the use of a finely made object when you're doing something you enjoy doing. So cameras do matter. The other cool thing about digital is it has made cameras like this, which I could never have dreamed of owning when I was younger, puts them within reach. They're not cheap, but they're cheaper. They're cheap in comparison to what they used to cost. Same goes for this Contax G2. It's a beautiful thing. Very highly automated, autofocus, auto exposure. It's a lot like the M2, but it's auto everything if you want it to be. Or you can do everything manually. And these guys are also relatively affordable, relative especially to what they used to cost. Thank you, digital. You've seen other videos possibly of mine on the Contax RX and other Contax SLRs. Some of the best cameras ever made. Very reasonable now. Their lenses aren't as reasonable because people want to mount these to their Canon DSLRs and shoot them. Why? Because they're so damn good. So again, lenses and cameras have not gotten any better, only more convenient. And you got these guys, medium format film. You know, the best full frame DSLRs probably approach the quality of this camera. I have to admit that. But they do not touch the joy of using something like this. The way you slow down, take your time, and use a very finely crafted machine to take your photo. Plus this guy will beat them in terms of dynamic range. The fourth item, I don't know what else to call it other than physicality. When you shoot film, you have a physical memento of the image that you took. That's not necessarily all that meaningful, and it certainly wouldn't be all that meaningful to everybody, but it does mean something to me. This is a notebook of film that I've shot in the past year and a half or so. And there's something about handling the negatives that you developed with your own hands. You don't have to do it yourself. I do for black and white. There's something about the physicality of this, that you loaded this film, you shot it, you handled it to take it out of the canister, you put it in the developing tank, you mixed the chemicals for the developing tank, you measured the temperature of everything, you sat there and agitated according to a schedule, you planned out according to temperature, exposure, etc., and you made this negative. That's kind of what it feels like to me. You made it. You didn't just take a picture, you made a negative. That's a pretty cool thing. On the other hand of the physicality, you've got to deal with the physicality. You don't have to, but it's a very good idea to organize your photos. I may do a video someday on how I organize my negatives. But anyway, that's one of the overheads of doing stuff physically with film. Related to physicality, I would say permanence. I'm mentioning this because a lot of people on the web mention it as a reason to shoot film. I think it's pretty weak, personally. The idea is, here I have physical stuff that represents photos that I've taken. This stuff cannot be accidentally deleted. This stuff cannot suddenly be unable to be read by a computer. This stuff can't be, in theory, rendered obsolete in the sense that you can't do anything with it. As I said, this argument's kind of weak. If my house burns down, these guys are going to go with it. There's no doubt about it. I guess if they get wet, they could get moldy. There's things that can happen to physical things. So I think that it's kind of a goofy argument. However, the flip side, that digital is not all that permanent, is true. It's just that you've got to take a lot of responsibility for caring for your digital assets. So, for example, I scan all my negatives, and obviously I do take a lot of digital photos. So I have to take responsibility for making sure that the permanence is there for that stuff. So I use Macs. I've got Time Machine set up on 2 different drives, one at home, one at work. I'm constantly backing up my hard drive. The next thing, I guess I would just call it fun. I mean, it's pretty fun to be able to go out and buy an old, beautiful old film camera for pennies on the dollar and create just incredible images from it, better than anything I can produce on any of my other digital cameras. And as I said before, go through this process where I bring those images to life by developing them and scanning them myself and bringing those scans, you know, up to snuff in terms of the digital file that I'm left with. The last thing might be the hardest sale of all, the idea of discipline. When you don't have many frames to shoot, you have to be disciplined in the subject you pick, in the exposure you set, in how you plan to develop the film and handle it after the fact. And that makes kind of every photo count. It forces you to have discipline in what you shoot. You can't just go out with your camera on continuous auto advance and take photos and pick the best one out of the set. What I found is my percentage of keepers when I shoot film is much higher than when I shoot digital. It's neither good nor bad, it's just kind of an observation, and it says that you're putting more effort into creating your photos when you do it with film. And God knows you're going through a lot of effort to create photos with film. I mean, you know, if you're developing your own and scanning and so forth. The discipline for me ties back up to my first point, which is quality. I feel like my photos are of higher quality because of the discipline that I have to use to shoot an old school manual focus, manual exposure film camera that's slow to handle like a Hasselblad. Discipline leads to quality that I am, I guess, more proud of, and almost like I feel fortunate to be able to get the results that I do, and I feel like I'm learning a lot more by doing it, even though I've been doing photography for a really long time. So that's my thoughts, and I hope this was useful to you. I'd actually like to hear from other people who shoot film or who are thinking about it, why you're thinking about it or why you do it, and let's hear what you have to say about it. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.